strap yourself in, grab your crucifix, say a little prayer because Hayley is going to take you on a horror amazing ride. I got your back. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, Hayley is going to take you down a horror amazing ride full of all different types of horror movies to tantalize your taste buds for these wonderful videos. I have put these movies in order from my most favorite, and not to say that there's millions and millions of other videos. There is so many horror movies that I absolutely love, especially anything vampire, and anything vampire from the 80s is, absolute heaven to me. They are my favorite. So, in actual fact, these aren't my top 10 favorite all-time videos. I would just struggle doing that because I love so many of them, and in this little review, whatever you would like to call it, some of them are actually doubled up because, as you know, some of the horror movies from the 80s have 1, 2, and 3, and sometimes more than that as well. So now I get to my number one ultimate favorite horror movie. It's got vampires, it's from the 80s, and pretty much most of the pin-up boys I had all these fellas posters all over the wall. Without anticipation, the number one spot is The Lost Boys. Now, if you haven't seen Lost Boys before, it's about an elder teenager called Michael, and he and his family move in with their grandfather. They move across the country to a place called Santa Carla, which in this movie is known for its missing people. Oh, I wonder why. It's also the vampire capital of America as well, so what a place to move to, right? You'll feel safe. So in moving to Santa Carla, Michael, our big character, falls for this beautiful brunette. And it's very, very unfortunate that she actually is one of the head vampire girlfriends, which is Kiefer Sutherland, the head vampire, in his finer glory. So Kiefer Sutherland's character, rather than getting jealous over the whole thing, he tries to make Michael one of them, which is a vampire, by drinking some blood, which he does. Don't you hate that teenage peer pressure? It will get you all the time. So this movie takes you along Michael's journey of slowly transitioning into a vampire. You've got Corey Haim, which is one of his brothers, Corey Feldman. He's one of the fellas that owns a comic book store, and he's also an avid vampire killer at the same time. So with all these amazing characters going on, it just makes for just the best vampire movie ever put on earth. It is absolutely wonderful. Also, one of my favorite memes or memes, wherever you're from, wherever you like to pronounce it, just here about the saxophone player in the movie. No one needed the saxophone player in this movie, but thank God they did, because you know what? I think every movie needs a saxophone player that's half naked with chains across his chest, playing like no tomorrow. I mean, it was just the icing on the cake to the movie, don't you think? Totally unnecessary, but by God, I'm glad they added that part. Now, if you love horror movies like I do, just leave in the comments what type of reviews you'd like me to do, because I'm actually going to be doing a hell of a lot more of these, whether or not it's Halloween, because this is something I've wanted to do for an extremely long time, and I just love Halloween. So I'm so excited to bring you this video, because it's going to be the first of many. Watch out. Now, enough about Lost Boys. I could rattle on about this movie for hours and hours. It is just one of my ultimate favorites. Now I want to get to my second favorite, and it was a close second. It was it was neck and neck for a long, long time until I actually sat down and I went, you know what? Lost Boys, number one. Oh, especially because I had so many hot characters in it. I think that tipped it over the edge, actually. But the second favourite video, coming at number 2, Fright Night. Fright Night.
Welcome to Fright Night.
Oh, as I was saying, this is a close second. Now, I'm actually talking about the original Fright Night, not the one that was brought in about, I think it was 2011. I'm talking about the 1985 Fright Night starring Chris Sarandon in it. And I'm just going to put his picture up here. Now, I have a deep love for Chris Sarandon. And I'll tell you why. He's in some of my favourite movies. I'm not going to rattle too many off. But number 1, he's Jerry Dandridge. And he's the main character in this movie other than Charlie. But Chris makes the movie. He's absolutely gorgeous in this movie. And I think it's because of him I fell in love with vampires and the whole backstory of vampires, because he is so handsome. He is absolutely gorgeous. And I had no idea for the longest time that he's actually Susan Sarandon's brother. I should know this because he is a fine actor. He is amazing in his own right, and I'm surprised that he's not in more movies because he's just a quality actor. And not only is he a quality actor, he's very, very handsome. And I just fell in love with him in this movie. So, if you haven't seen Fright Night, the original, it is all about Charlie. Charlie is a young teenage boy. It's all these teenagers in these horror movies, right? He's a young teenage boy and he's got this gorgeous girlfriend and he just can't seem to make it all the way with her, which he really wants to do. I mean, what teenage boy doesn't, right? So Charlie gets this neighbour and quickly realises that he's not just any other neighbour. He's just not a normal person. There's body bags coming out of the house. He discovers he's a vampire. And it all absolutely goes downhill for Charlie. He ends up losing his girlfriend. She becomes a vampire. She gives it up to Jerry. I mean, I couldn't go any worse for poor Charlie. So the whole movie revolves around trying to make all his friends believe him that his next door neighbour is a vampire. And then it also comes to the point where they have to top off poor Jerry because, you know, you can't go around a small town biting people. It's just not kosher, you know? You just can't do that. It's not the thing to do, apparently. But I just have to say, my favourite part of this movie, there is a dance scene between Jerry and Charlie's girlfriend, and it is very, very sexy. It is probably one of the reasons why I wanted to start dancing in the first place. As some of you might know, I'm a dance teacher. But I have to put a snippet of this dance scene because it is very, very sexy, as I said. And it's Chris in his finest form. Oh, I just wanted to be Charlie's girlfriend in that moment. I just think it's the hottest dancing piece I've seen in a movie just yet. Like, it's absolutely awesome. There's another movie with a great dance scene and I'll tell you about it in a minute. It's in my top 10, but this one certainly takes the cake. It's sexy. It's got Chris Sarandon in it and, oh, again, it just ticks off all of Hayley's boxes. All right, my lovelies, coming in at number 3, I'm just going to say one sentence. They're here.
They're here.
If that doesn't give it away, then, oh my God, I don't know what will. It's the fabulous original Poltergeist movie. Now, I say original because they did bring out another version. I don't know why they keep doing this crap. I mean, can't you just come up with another movie? Stop remaking movies. It didn't need to be remade. It was perfect the way it was before you touched it. Rant over. So the original Poltergeist is another 1980s movie. It came out in 1982, and they really got everything right in this movie, especially involving kids. And I don't know about you at home, but any movie that involves kids in a horror scares the absolute bejeebers out of me. I can't Kids are scary in scary movies. Like, what the hell? Or now that I'm a mum and I see kids in scary movies, it really gives me a heart attack. It makes me quite anxious. So in Poltergeist, we have a wonderful, beautiful family. The family that you'd love to be in. And they live in the suburbs, a newer suburban area. And then we've got this beautiful little girl that starts getting visits by these ghosts. The TV people, she calls them. And this family starts getting all these little visits by that what seems to be friendly ghosts, like little movements here and there, a chair moving. All these strange things are starting to happen around their house. And then all of a sudden, the daughter goes missing, and then it all goes downhill after that. It is an extremely scary movie. I still find it scary in our day and age, even though this was made in the 80s. There is one scene where the little girl's brother is counting down between thunder and lightning to see how close it is. And then all of a sudden he's taken away by this scary tree. I don't like to give away too much, but I'm kind of guessing with most of my subscribers, you might possibly have seen this before, but I'm not going to say too much. But yes, that to me was one of the scariest scenes in the movie. I can't have trees or any bushes outside my bedroom doors. It just sends me straight to that place of Poltergeist and that tree coming to get the little boy. It is absolutely terrifying. I mean, not to mention the poor eldest that ends up falling into the pool that's not really made yet, and then all these skeletons start coming out. I mean, that would be a close second in the scary part of this movie. But it is a great journey of a movie, and not only is Poltergeist 1 really awesome, Poltergeist 2 is just as good. It is still revolved around the same family. They go through the same problem, but it just leads into a bit more of a backstory as to why this young girl is so special to these ghosts. And then it leads into Poltergeist 3, where it's still the same young girl. She gets fobbed off from her family because they need a break from her and all the ghosts. And she gets fobbed off to her aunt and uncle into this mega amazing motel / tower where she resides. And lo and behold, the ghosts find her again. So Poltergeist 1, 2 and 3 I have compacted into number 3 of my top 10 movies. So Poltergeist, very, very good. I strongly recommend, and I can't wait to get into watching these. It's just all right, my lovely. So here we are at number 4. And just before I get into this number 4 video, I want to explain to you, usually with movies, when they bring out a 1, 2, 3 or more, that the first one is always the best, and then everything slowly deteriorates horribly after that. In this case, I was so surprised to go, right, number 2 absolutely craps on number 1. So without anticipation, we are talking about Jeepers Creepers 2. Now, you're probably saying, oh, Hayley, what was wrong with the first Jeepers Creepers? Everything! And so where Jeepers Creepers 1 came out, Jeepers Creepers 2 came out, and I didn't even bother watching it. I really didn't even bother watching it, and it wasn't until my best friend, Toddles, I'm going to get him on my YouTube channel one day, you watch. Watch out, Toddy! Hayley's going to get you in on this. So my best friend, Toddles, knows how much I love horror movies, and he's like, oh, Hayley, you just got to give this one a go. I'm going to make you watch it. And so I sat on my hands and I watched it, and lo and behold, I very, very, very much love our little villain of Jeepers Creepers 2. I think he's absolutely fabulous. He's scary. The story was wonderful. I felt like there was bits that are actually quite funny in it. I love horror movies that have a little bit of humour. It needs to happen. It needs to have that black and white, yin and yang in a good horror movie. Alright, so going into Jeepers Creepers 2, it has come up again, the 23rd spring, and it's when our villain comes out to play and to feed, because he's hungry, you know. He's been asleep for 23 springs, so now's the time to come out and have a bit of a frenzy. And his new suspects in this movie is, unfortunately, a bus full of children, of teenage children. Haha, again with the teenagers. So, as I was saying, we have these poor teenagers in one of those American-style yellow buses. They're really cool. You see them in every movie. And all of a sudden, they get a hole in a tyre. I have no idea what from. And because they're stuck out in the middle of nowhere, it is prime time, prime feeding for our villain at play. So throughout this movie, you see these poor teenagers trying to keep alive, and our Jeepers Creepers character trying to eat them, and it was just so well done. And I'm really, really glad that I gave Jeepers Creepers 2 a try. I think it was wonderful, really, really well made, and they made a bit more of a story out of it this time around. So you've got to appreciate that. Hence why Jeepers Creepers 2 is number 4 on my playlist this Halloween. Alright, so this leads me to our number 5 position, and it's a movie and a movie and a movie. They keep bringing out more and more of these movies, but I'm just going to talk about the first one. But in saying that, all of them I think are absolutely fabulous. And it started again in the 80s as well, so another win-win for Hayley. And in number 5 position, here it is Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, if you're not familiar with the Nightmare on Elm Street brand, they have made many, many movies, but still to this day, the first one is my favorite. And I can also tell you why, because number 1, it's got Johnny Depp in it, and that's where I first discovered Johnny Depp. Not long after that, there was 21 Jump Street, which was very, very big in the 80s. But Johnny Depp, I don't know if this was his first movie, but regardless, he was in it. He was horribly killed in this movie. And as I said, it was when I first discovered Johnny Depp, and he turned into one of my biggest heartthrobs of the 80s, and he's still a heartthrob to this day. So if you're not familiar with the Nightmare on Elm Street, we have our villain, which is Freddy Krueger. And Freddy Krueger has all these knives on his hands, and he comes and he attacks kids, preferably teenagers, in their dreams when they sleep. So throughout every single one of these movies, all these teenagers are trying so desperately not to go to sleep because they know they're going to get murdered by this fabulous villain, Freddy Krueger. And as you go through all the movies, you actually find out a little bit more about Freddy and his history and why he is the way he is. I mean, he's just a horrid man. I mean, there's nothing great about him other than he's a serial killer of nightmares. There has been so many Nightmare on Elm Street movies made, and I'm an avid fan of this franchise, and I just love them. Alright, so coming at number 6 is another vampire movie, again from the 80s. Haha, winning! And it's got Jim Carrey in it, and I used to have the biggest crush on Jim Carrey back in the day. I actually think this is possibly his first movie he ever made. And at number 6, it is called Once Bitten. Ta-run-ta-ra. Now, Once Bitten, I wouldn't actually say it is horror or scary or anything like that. It is more so a comedy horror. I mean, of course, having Jim Carrey in it, I mean, what do you expect? It's going to be funny. But It is a great movie. It's a great watch. It's fun to watch. It's fun and silly at the same time. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, it is about a young guy, a teenager. His name is Mark, aka Jim Carrey's character. And he's got a girlfriend. He's a typical teenage boy, and all he dreams about and all he wants to do is finally lose his virginity. And he becomes quite obsessed with it. So one night he and his friends go down into the valley. They want to have a big night out. These three boys are trying to all lose their virginity at the same time. They go to this club, they're underage, and lo and behold, Jim Carrey runs into an elder but amazingly beautiful vampire. And she needs a virgin. She needs a virgin so she stays young and youthful and fabulous. So Botox to vampires are obviously virgins. That's what keeps them young and gorgeous. So this female vampire, she needs to bite the same fella 3 times to keep her fabulous beauty. And so she comes along Mark, and poor Mark, he starts going through the ringer with this vampire. All he can do is eat, sleep, breathe her. She's in his thoughts all the time. He's still got this girlfriend who absolutely loves him. And the whole movie is about still poor Mark trying to 1, lose his virginity. And 2, not to get bitten and become a vampire at the same time. Now, as I said earlier, when I was talking about the Fright Night movie, about the dance scene in it. Now, this is another movie with an epic dance scene in it. When you look at it today, it is absolutely terrible, but I still love it and I still think it's fabulous. So I'm going to put the footage in here of this epic dance scene. I wouldn't even say it's a dance scene. It's an epic dance battle. A battle against good and evil, vampire and human. These 2 women are fighting against each other in hopes to keep Mark for themselves, and it's absolutely fabulous. If you want to figure out exactly what happened to Mark, then you're gonna have to watch this movie. It is absolutely fabulous, and like I said, it's not a typical horror movie. It's a funny horror. It's from the 80s and it's absolutely fabulous, hence why it's come in at my number 6. So moving on to the next one. Here we are at number 7, and we're also sticking to funny horror. This is actually, it's supposed to be children's horror. It's Walt Disney, but I think some parts are still a little bit scary even for my own kids to watch. But it is all in all a good quality, fabulous family movie. Fun for the whole family. Sit down, eat your candy and watch it all together. So coming in at number 7, we have 2 movies at the same, 1 and 2, and it is Hocus Pocus. Now Hocus Pocus, the original was made many, many moons ago. It is a Walt Disney movie. It is supposed to be very family orientated. I do find parts of it for kids are quite scary, but in saying that, I mean, what's the point of putting up a horror movie unless it is going to be scary? Anything with witches, it's going to be scary. Now, I love this movie because it's got one of my favourite singers/actresses, and that's Bette Midler. Bette Midler is an absolute classic, amazing artist, and Bette Midler's career is the most fullest body of careers that I've ever come across. Not only is she an amazing singer, she's an amazing actress, and all in all, she's an amazing person. I absolutely love her in Hocus Pocus 1 and 2. I just think she made the movie for me. So Hocus Pocus is about these 3 Salem witches, and they need children, They need the souls of young children to keep them young and beautiful. Very much like vampires, aren't they? So again, children are the Botox for witches in this movie. And The whole movie is just absolutely fantastic. It really puts you into the Halloween spirit. So if you're not feeling Halloweeny quite just yet, and you haven't watched these previous movies that I've just talked about, then I think Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2 is a really great place to start in your Halloween movie adventures. I'm going to be doing next some great family horror movies that you can watch together, and Hocus Pocus is going to be number one for that. It is just a really good all-rounder, and like I said, it really puts you into that Halloween spirit. So, I just love it. I just have to put this in here. I watched Hocus Pocus 2 a couple of weeks ago with my mum, and I ended up crying at the end of it. I just got so emotional. It is such a great movie. They did such a great job, and it doesn't matter that it was a good, I don't know, was it 15, 20 years in between movies? I think they did a fabulous job, and I'm so glad that they came out with it. So win-win. All right, coming in at number 8, and we're going back to vampires again. I mean, who knew? Who knew there'd be so many amazing vampire movies, and I would just love them with such passion. So, coming in at number 8, one of the first adulty type of, I don't know if you'd say adulty, but teenagey, adulty. One of the first great reads was Interview with a Vampire. Thank you, Anne Rice, for making such fabulous books that not only as a teenager but as an adult we can enjoy. Every single one that she's written that started from Interview with the Vampire has been absolutely fabulous. And I was so excited to put this in at number 8. We have Handsome Vampires, a fabulous story, also being quite romantical between the sexes and same sexes, so it was very, very fashion forward for its day. And Rice really brought out all the amazingness of being a vampire. Now, the director of Interview with a Vampire really did a phenomenal job in bringing Anne Rice's story to life, and I really appreciate it. Again, a movie that they really hit the nail on the head. They've got an amazing story. They have amazing actors. You've got Brad Pitt and Antonio Banderas. Back in the day were two amazing pin-up boys. They were just absolutely gorgeous. And not only that, you've got Tom Cruise, which you gotta love Tom Cruise. He was so good in this movie, and he is such a handsome man, and you can't take away how awesome of an actor he is. He really is wonderful. So you've got 3 amazing male characters, and then you've got Kirsten Dunst, and this was her first movie. And I remember so many of the interviews that she had after the movie, and so many people went on like, oh my God, you got to get into a coffin with Brad Pitt. And look, the poor girl was too young to appreciate it, but you know, I'm sure most of us would be really happy to get stuck in a coffin with Brad Pitt. He's just absolutely gorgeous. So it was really hard to put Interview with a Vampire as 8. I would have put it much, much higher, but I still want to say I really appreciate this movie. I think it's so well done, and it's one of those movies that you can really appreciate going from the book to the movie. I think the jump and the transition, they did such a spectacular job, and you've really got to appreciate that. So coming in at number 9, I feel like this is going to be one of those movies that not many people have been introduced to in their lifetime. I've just been really lucky as a child to have a mum that truly understood my passion for horror movies, and so she introduced this one to me. It's probably something that I wouldn't have watched unless it was for her. And it's coming in at number 9. It is called Company of Wolves. Now, if you haven't heard of this, I feel like it's very much an art house type of movie. It's not your regular type of horror. It's very, very art house, I would say. I would put it in the art house genre of things. I feel like people that have come across this movie have been big lovers of horror movies for most of their lives, and it's something that like I said, I don't think many people know about, but I'm so excited to be the one to introduce it to you. It's a story about Little Red Riding Hood, but done in the most spectacular and scary way. So for its heyday, it has such spectacular special effects, going from human to wolf. Nothing quite like this. Again, for its day, you've got to remember this movie came out in 1984. So you really have to give it 2 out of sight thumbs up to have such amazing special effects to what was available in those days. They didn't have all this computer fun stuff to make special effects. Like, they had to use makeup and the magic of cinematography. Like, if you put all these things at play, you'll have much, much appreciation for this transition from going from human to wolf. It is absolutely fabulous, and it is an absolutely fabulous story. It is not your run-of-the-mill horror. Like I said, it's very art house. It's very artsy-fartsy, an artsy-fartsy version of Little Red Riding Hood, and they've done a spectacular job. So if you haven't seen it yet, I implore you to go and watch it, especially if you are into horror and if you are into wolves, like anything werewolves, like me. Love it. Not as much as vampires, but it's up there, absolutely. I mean, it's horror. I mean, it's there for me. I implore you to give it a try and watch it. It might be that missing piece of horror movies that's missing out of your life. So now we're moving to number 10 of my 10 movies that I'll be watching leading up to Halloween. Now, this is the first ever horror movie I've ever watched in my life, and this is the movie that absolutely paved the way of my love for horror movies. And at number 10, I'm talking about Something Wicked This Way Comes. This is supposed to be a family movie, but I can tell you now, even as an adult, it has an it feel about it. It is about children. It is about children that are taken away and gone missing and horrible things done to them. I can appreciate this movie so much because it is very unlike a Disney movie. It is quite scary. As I said, even for an adult, it is a scary movie, and it is supposed to be Disney. It's supposed to be a family movie. It's crazy. I had to slip this in. Not only is it nostalgic for me because it's my ever first horror movie, it set up the love and the passion for horror movies, but it is a really, really great movie. It's scary. You've got kids. Again, anything with children involved, for sure you're going to get scared. It's got circus people, carnival type people, and they're scary as hell. They bring a train into town. They're there to kidnap town folk and make them a part of the carnival people. These 2 boys that cotton on to exactly what's going on with these carnival people. These carnival people cotton on to these kids knowing exactly what's going on. So they're sending their posse and trying to get the town folk involved and trying to get these 2 kids. And this is another movie for its day that has absolutely awesome special effects that you really have to appreciate from when it was made. Now, this movie was made in 1983, so again, you can appreciate the time and the limited access that these movies had to special effects. Again, people, you really have to appreciate that they did everything they can to make a spectacular movie. And as I said, anything that involves kids and carnival folk is scary as hell. So that leads me to the end of this video. I hope you absolutely thoroughly enjoyed yourself. I hope I inspired you to get into some horror movies, to tantalize your taste buds and get you inspired to be a part of this fabulous holiday, which is Halloween. I know Halloween is not a holiday, but not in Hayley's world. Halloween is everything. So in saying that, I want to say a big fat thank you to waiting to the end of this movie and watching all the top 10, Hayley's top 10 of movies I'm going to be watching all of this week. I'm going to be banging them to death. And I just want to wish you all the most fabulous Halloween ever. Mwah, mwah. See you next time, gorgeous people. Rah!